Randy. So I actually wanted to make this video dedicated to individuals that do not have an autoimmune illness and have loved ones or friends that do. I felt inclined to make this video because last week I shared something personal on my Instagram, and a bunch of people that have autoimmune illnesses were commenting me and sending me sweet messages. And once we really started to talk, they really started to open up and tell me that they can only find support in others that have an autoimmune illness. And so I really started to feel like that they don't find support through other people simply because there's a lack of understanding in those that do not have a chronic illness. So I just wanted to share a few things that will hopefully give those that do not have an autoimmune illness an insight on what it's like to have an autoimmune illness. To start off, your friends or loved ones that have an autoimmune illness actually feel like that they have to be the strong friend. We are deemed as strong simply because we don't share how we feel mentally or physically on a day-to-day basis. And the reason why we do not share is because when we do tell someone that we have an autoimmune illness, they don't really actually make the attempt to listen, they just give an ignorant response. For example, when I tell someone that I have rheumatoid arthritis, this is what I always hear. I hear, "Oh, okay," followed by an ignorant response, instead of, "Can you please tell me more about your illness?" So therefore, the odds are, if someone does not make it a point to learn about rheumatoid arthritis, then I'm not going to go to them and explain to them when my RA is giving me any type of trouble. So people with autoimmune illnesses will just go through day in and day out doing everyday things without talking about how they're really feeling, and that's why we look like we're really strong individuals. Which I'm not saying that we're not strong individuals, because we are strong for what we have to go through every single day. But I'm saying that just like with anyone else, you feel better when you actually can communicate and open up, and that's all that we want to do. Another issue that we have that causes us not to communicate is because people believe oftentimes that we're faking our symptoms because you can't see from the outside what we're battling on the inside. It took me 6 years to get diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, simply because doctors were completely chalking up my symptoms as something simple and just kept misdiagnosing me with tendinitis. My coaches at the time when I was in the process of getting diagnosed thought that I was being dramatic and would say things like, "Haha, Randy, are you pregnant? Your feet are so swollen." Yeah, by the way, I was in elementary school. But since my battle was on the inside and that's what was causing my feet to swell up, no one saw me roll my ankle, no one saw me stub my toes, no one saw me do anything to my feet, so my symptoms were disregarded. Thankfully, my mom and dad kept fighting for a diagnosis because who knows where I would be today if I wasn't diagnosed when I was. And also, as a side note, I was able to find a diagnosis, and that's why I say that I have an autoimmune illness. But there are many people that have not found a diagnosis, and they have to classify what they have as a chronic pain illness. So if you ever hear that someone has a chronic pain illness, understand that they are fighting a hard battle looking for a diagnosis as to why their body is acting the way that it is. So since people with autoimmune illnesses and chronic pain illnesses have a hard time communicating with those around them and also go on this long journey of doctor's appointments and tests to try and be diagnosed, there are many things that they feel on a day-to-day basis that I feel like everyone needs to know. Many oftentimes feel like they are a burden, and therefore, since they feel like a burden, that makes them feel guilty, and that's really hard to ask for help. They oftentimes feel like they are alone because no one around them has the same illness and is battling the same battle that they are. Many struggle with anxiety and depression, and if you wonder why they struggle with anxiety and depression, then you should definitely check out my 2 videos on mental health. Many are actually in pain every single day, and whenever they have a good day, doesn't mean that it's just a pain-free day. It simply just means that their pain levels were bearable enough to do everyday tasks. And despite how nervous and freaked out and worried they are about the future and what it will hold and if their body will hold up, they are still positive throughout every single walk. And they make sure that they're being a positive light to those around them, and they're always lending a helping hand to help those that are going through various obstacles in their lives. So just imagine battling every single day with those emotions and thoughts, and above all of those emotions and thoughts aren't even validated by the public because they can't see what you're actually battling inside. I honestly cannot stress how hard it is to wake up every single day knowing that your own body is fighting itself. So if you know someone with an autoimmune illness or is suffering from chronic pain, then actually ask them how they're doing. I know every time you see them, they're probably smiling, and the days that are really, really hard, you don't see them, and that's when they're locked away in their room. but I guarantee you, even though they're smiling doesn't mean that they're not struggling with something. So actually ask them how they're doing, and before you respond to whatever they decide to vent to you about, put yourself in their shoes. I know personally that when people don't try and put themselves in my shoes, that honestly makes me draw back from them and draw back from the friendship, because it's not good for my mental health to not be understood. And therefore that ultimately just made me feel more alone, because I kept losing friends who I thought were in my circle. So I do hope that this video is somewhat helpful and it does give a little bit of insight, because I do believe that if you don't know, then you just simply don't know. And so it's hard to be understanding if you don't know really what someone's going through. So if anyone is going through anything, or you are a friend of someone who does have an autoimmune illness or is suffering from a chronic pain illness, then you can always reach out to me if you need to communicate, if you need to talk. I'm always here to listen. You can find me on Instagram or you can email me. It's completely up to you. But of course, I hope that y'all have a great rest of y'all's day. Goodbye.